Hi, this is Quinlan. Not many people have any idea what the Ainu language sounds like because there are very few opportunities to hear it in this modern era. So in this video, I'd like to play for you the oral recitation of an Ainu folktale, and I'll explain that folktale. I recently went to Hokkaido, and I had the opportunity to listen to this folktale being told in the Ainu language. So I'm going to play some of that for you while I explain what the story is, or rather, tell the story in English. First of all, let me give a little bit of basic information about the Ainu. As you probably know, they're the indigenous people of Hokkaido, and their culture is said to have sort of solidified, if you will, around the 1200s, according to scholarship now. But of course, they have their roots that go back to times prehistoric and are in many ways related to the Jomon peoples who inhabited Japan since more than 20,000 years ago. Now, the Ainu language itself is pretty much gone. There was a census in 2008, during which time it was said there were less than 100 remaining Ainu native speakers. And I'm sure that number has decreased since then, as the average age was pretty high. And so pretty soon it'll be mostly a language remembered, not a living one. One interesting thing about the Ainu language that I learned is that there's no third person. Everything is related in first person or second person, meaning I, we, or you. There's no it or they in the way they talk or relate or tell stories, which is really fascinating to visualize and think about. So since there's no third person in the Ainu language, this whole story is told in the first person from the perspective of a goddess. This story is about the little sister of Oinakamui, an important god of the Ainu people. And it is about Makayo, which is the Ainu name for a plant in Japanese that is called Fukinoto, and in English is called butterbur. So this was an important plant to them, as it is now to modern day Japanese. I was bored in my home, and so I left the house of my older brother and went down and peeked upon the human realm. And there I saw beautiful mountains, an ocean, and between the two, a great village. There was food, there were beautiful buildings, and it was so fascinating. So I came down into the realm of the humans and stood on top of the mountain and took a closer look. The houses, the crops, the people, so colorful. I got so excited, I started to dance in a circle and spin. And as I began to dance about and twirl in my joy, winds came from my fingertips. These great winds that came from my fingertips formed storms as they rolled out over the ocean. These in turn gave rise to typhoons, a great tsunami. And after I had calmed down, laughing, and rolled about on top of the mountain, I glanced down at the human village and saw that it had been laid waste. The houses were destroyed, the crops no more. Bodies were strewn about. In my shock and terror, I fled back up to my older brother's house in the realm of the gods and hid there underneath my kimono. On the following day, a letter was delivered to our house from the human realm, addressed to my older brother. It was a formal complaint, for I had destroyed and laid waste to their villages and killed many. My brother flew at me in a rage, and before I knew it, I had been cast down into the dark realm below, the lower realm, the hell realm. I stayed there for a time in my sorrow, but eventually I was able to poke up and saw a light again, and I found that I had come into the human realm in the form of butterbur, Fukinoto, or Makayo in the Ainu language, this first spring plant which pokes out after the snow melts. In this way, I was able to repay my debt to the humans, for they can eat fukinoto. It's delicious and gives much nutrition. And I also stood as a warning and a pledge that no gods would again destroy civilization, and a warning to the gods themselves of the punishment that awaited them were they to wreak havoc upon the humans again. And that's how the story goes. So it's kind of a sad story, I guess, because she seems to be doomed to be in plant form for her entire life, but it's also sort of a Noah's Ark sort of thing, I assume, in that civilization was once destroyed through natural disaster, but now, instead of a rainbow being God's promise, as I believe it was in the Old Testament, we've got the fukinoto, this wonderful little plant, which is the promise of the gods never again to destroy civilization. Though with all the natural disasters in Japan, I'm not sure if all the gods are listening. I recently found an academic paper online about the culture and language of the Ainu, and it's in a PDF file, so I stuck it on my Kindle, and I'm going to read it because it looks fascinating. And that same professor who wrote that from Kyoto University, I'll put a link to it if you're curious in the description. That same professor also wrote a paper comparing the culture of the Ainu and indigenous peoples of Hokkaido with the Tibetans of Western Tibet and Ladakh. Another subject that I'm really interested in, and in fact my undergraduate degree was in Tibetan language and Buddhism, and so I'm really excited to read all these papers, and I will do my best to, if it's interesting for a broader audience, share it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this short little Ainu story, and I'll see you on the trails.